Welcome to Becoming Fearless, the personal growth podcast for you if you are ready to overcome fear and step into your greatness. Our purpose is to help you overcome your limits, have loads of fun along the way, unlocking your fullest potential in life, business, health and relationships every single day. I'm your host, Charlotte Carter, a high-performance coach and entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience. I've supported many highly driven, talented people like you who dream big and are ready to take action to overcome what's holding them back. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing hacks and habits on how to build self-belief, courage and confidence to master your mindset and navigate your emotions so that you can reach your human potential in a way that feels light, fun and easeful and helps you become fearless. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Becoming Fearless. I am really pleased to bring to you this chat that we're going to have. It's another guest episode. It's with somebody that I personally employ in my business to work as my financial coach for me and the team and all of the things that go on behind the scenes. And there's lots and lots of fears around working on the topic that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to introduce you to the wonderful Tanya, who is my financial coach and who I have a huge amount of love and respect for in various guises and have navigated numerous fears around money, which we will dive into. But Tanya, please introduce yourself a little bit more and let people know what you do and how you help people.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to come on the podcast. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm a little bit nervous. But I'm Tanya. I'm the financial wingwoman. I help people in business learn how to create, grow and hold wealth. And that can look like any number of things because it's such a personal journey, isn't it? The finances, whether that's on a business side, whether that's on a personal side. So there's a massive amount of overlap. There's a lot of trust needed to work with people on this subject. It's literally like opening up your knicker drawer and pulling out all the things out the back of your closet that you might not want to think about or talk about. But in the same vein, there's a huge amount of release and relief that comes from, okay, great. Now I've got that plan in place, or I've got a safe place to go to talk about this or ask about this, or I know what I'm doing now. So that's kind of what I do. It's a hugely individual journey working with people. And I love working with you. You're so open to trying all the things, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm definitely that. Let's go straight into this whole concept of money mindset, because I know a lot of my listeners, a lot of people that come into my world and a lot of high performers will have identified some of their fear around money for certain, whether they are multimillionaires, whether they are just starting out, whether they've had success and lost it, whether they're building a whole new arm in their business, whatever's going on for them. There's a financial journey that goes on, as well as an identity piece, as well as an emotional piece. It is all encompassing. And every single step is, I wanted to say wrapped in fear, but that feels quite intense, but it is, or it has been for me. Each step has been wrapped. The fear has been what I've seen first. I've had to unpick the fear and then I've been able to take the various steps. For me, let's talk about one of the things, like for me, which I know a lot of clients have. It's like the head in the sand piece. Yeah. So I'm not going to look at any of my numbers. I'm not going to do any of the detail. I'm not going to do any of the processes because I'm an entrepreneur and I want all the freedom and all of the other things, and they don't excite me. There's an element for me personally. One of the things you and I have spoke about is that there wasn't initial excitement to get like the ducks in the row or to look at the stuff behind the scene that actually provides you with more ease, more stability, more space and time to be able to focus on what you're actually here to do. It's an essential part of the business. So let's just talk a little bit about those people who are listening. They're like, oh my goodness, money, I'm going to put my head in the sand.
I think it's so easy to do that. And as entrepreneurs, we have to wear so many hats. And we've got no choice, whether we're doing it with a small team or whether we're doing it on our own. We've got to think about the finances. We've got to think about client journey. We've got to think about marketing. We've got to think about the legals. We've got to think about what programs, what am I selling? How much am I selling it for? So because there's always this hierarchy and lots to do, because we feel money, and our journey from being teeny tiny, our first memories around money and where money comes from and how people talk around money when they're with us, we carry all of those versions with us. We're like a giant Russian doll, and every younger version of us is within us, and we carry us with us on the journey. So when it comes to, oh, well, I need to sort the finances, I need to do my bookkeeping, I better keep those receipts, quite often it's pushed way, way, way down the list because there are other things that do excite you, or there's more of an urgency to create or do other things because someone else has told us to, or we believe that it will propel us or move us forward faster if we work on something else, and that will come later. It's quite easy to convince ourselves, I don't have to worry about saving for tax. I won't owe any tax in the first year or the first couple of years. So it's easy, because the feelings that we have around money make us want to avoid it. It's easy to just push it out of the way. And quite often when we do start to look at it, it's not always intuitive. It's not always an easy process. Sometimes if we're doing it less regularly, like bookkeeping, we've got to remind ourselves, and it's just, do you know what? I don't want to do it. So it's easy not to. And that just perpetuates from there when we don't keep on top of stuff. But it's the same with anything, right? That might be a health journey that you're on. It might be prioritizing water intake and sleep. We know the right things we need to do. Do we do all the things? Because there's always a great big long list of everything that we need to get done in a day. So I think it can be indicative of so many different things.
I think one of the things that you've highlighted there, which is a really big thing, and I'd like us to explore next, is that people feel money. So you said we feel money. So can you expand a little bit on what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So money, if we think about what money is, if we think about pound notes and coins and a number in the bank, it's a commodity. We have money and we exchange it for other stuff. We buy food, we pay the mortgage, we pay for services. But because of that whole journey that we have to get to where we are, and because we're humans and we experience and we have lots of memories and feelings around money that we've picked up over the years, quite often from being 3, 4, 5 years of age, we don't treat money as a commodity. We treat it, we feel it instead. It's not a thing that we pick up and put down. It's something that fills us with excitement or fear or shame or guilt or embarrassment. There's so many feelings that we attach to it, and that's where the problem arises. And when we say to people, you just need to do this, you just need a process, people don't hear, I just need a process. They feel that if I do that, then I'm going to remember that situation, or I'm going to remember that time when I was shamed by a colleague or my brother or my dad or whatever it might be. And that's what stops you from doing it. It's not that you can't do it. Whilst we're not taught about managing money in schools, there are people that we can ask. We can Google certain things. We could find out if we really, really wanted to. But what stops us is the fact that we feel it, and that's what's scary. It feels uncomfortable, and the way that we feel is exactly the same as we felt when we were shamed, or when we're stood at the front of a queue to get to a cash machine and it prints out that you've got no money in the account rather than giving you the money, and you've got that instant, oh my God, everybody behind me now knows that I don't have any money in that account. They don't care. They're more interested and bothered about what they're doing for themselves. But that's the assumption that we make because of what preconceived ideas and feelings that we have. That's what makes it scary. That's what makes us avoid it. And it's the work that I do with clients quite often is trying to unearth where those things come from, because a lot of the time they're not our own beliefs. They're something mum and dad has said, or a family member has said, or the atmosphere when you walk into a room and you know that there's something wrong and it's linked to a bad day at work, or somebody's not paid, so we haven't got enough money for something. That's what we feel, that's what we remember, which makes it really, really tricky to navigate, because all you want to do is run your business and do the best job you can for your clients. But we've got all these complicated emotions that get in the way.
And I think what happens for so many people, coupled with that awareness piece, is the whole vulnerability piece. So people feel exposed, and then this whole element of, oh my goodness, everybody's going to see either that I'm a failure or that I haven't got this in track, or whatever their personal story is. So my thread, as I've been open about, is the not good enough thread that I don't necessarily have now, but it will show up in different guises. This is like, well, I haven't managed my money enough, or I haven't managed my receipts enough, or I should be further on. And this enough feeling comes in and sideswipes you, so that you actually then don't take the action, because the feeling is so uncomfortable and you're so vulnerable. And this is why I think so many people prevent talking about it, because they know that they're actually going to talk about stuff that's going to make them feel not great. So it's like that, let's just close the box, where I always say with everyone that listens to Becoming Fearless, this is about becoming fearless. And you can't become fearless allowing fear to walk on the journey with you if you don't know what it is that you're hiding from, what you're afraid of. And if I ask people in my world and in my network, and I've worked with people that are scaling their business to 100 million, I've worked with people who've gotten, just starting out, many, many guises, there's lots of similarities that I see. And it's really their relationship with money, which is mirrored in how they feel about themselves on certain guises in certain situations. So let's talk through some of the kind of typical, even though everyone's unique, what the kind of like typical feelings that people might experience at first. So I know you've mentioned shame. What else? Are there any kind of like typical feelings that if people first go, oh my goodness, okay, I'm ready to start looking, are there like a handful of emotions that they would tend to feel generically?
Yeah, I think the overwhelm is a big one around money, which it's the beliefs that we have and the feelings that we have that then impact on our behaviour and then our actions that follow through. So feeling overwhelmed, or having a fear of, or a belief that whenever I have money, somebody takes it off me. So that quite often can lead to people that earn plenty of money. They know that they've got the money coming in, but then when they get to the end of the month, there's nothing there in the account, and they don't understand why. So we're avoiding looking at what we're spending, but we've got this habit that if I hold on to the money, someone's going to lose it. And that can stem from, I worked with a client last year, and for her, she kept all her pocket money and her birthday money that she got over the years, and she had one of those, was it Lloyd's or NatWest, where they had those piggy banks, an actual pig, I can't remember the name of the bank, and you could get a collection of them.
Yeah.
And she used to keep all the money in the piggy bank, but then every now and then her mum would come and borrow money. So she would need money to pay the window cleaner, or she needed cash and she didn't have any on it. And she'd say, can I borrow some of your money and I will give it you back? And she didn't feel she could say no to her mum, and she wanted to believe her mum, but for whatever reason, her mum never gave her the money back. So she had this fear, whenever I save, someone takes it off me. So she would spend so that nobody could take it off her, but it also meant then that she couldn't pay a VAT bill and she couldn't pay the tax bill without getting herself in a really tricky situation. And it can work the other way. It can be a fear of never being enough or never having enough. So people hoard money and they can't then spend it to the point where they won't invest in themselves with a coach, or they won't invest in a VA to help relieve the pressure. So they put themselves under, I have to do all the things myself. I have to be in control of everything. And the worry that they're not going to have enough money to pay the tax man, or they're not going to have enough money to pay the minimum amount that they need for their own salary. So it's the feelings that we have that then link to the behaviours and the actions that we then take. So it's about breaking those down, understanding the memories and the experiences that those are linked to. And quite often it can be just one thing that's happened or one thing that's been said to somebody, which is very much my story. It was around one experience, but it impacted my ability to charge a fair amount for my clients. It completely made me freeze when it came to invoices being outstanding and needing to chivvy someone along and said, do you mind settling my account? I couldn't do it because it was so uncomfortable for me to say, can you give me that money? Because I had a deep belief that I didn't deserve it. So I really struggled to send out quotes. I really struggled to follow up with prospective clients, which then completely derails your business. And it's easy then to believe, well, I'm just no good at business, or I'm no good at writing proposals. So we miss what the actual underlying issue is when it comes to identifying where it stems from. And that's what you need trust to work with someone to share that story, because it's really personal.
Yeah, and I think it's built so much on trust, and I think that the journey is so deep rooted, like you say. It started when you're very, very small, and some people have these situations where they may be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, any age in life. There will be areas where this relationship with money is holding them back. It's stopping them. It's stagnating them. It's time to look at it. Let's talk about that. Time to look at it. So creating your 3 stages: creating, holding, and then elevating or expanding. Let's go through them. Let's talk about creating money. What if people were in that space, people creating sales, where will their kind of relationship with money come in there?
So being able to start in business, being able to know that you've got something that people are going to want to buy. So a lot of that comes from understanding and having that trust in yourself. It's self-trust is a big part of that. Particularly if people are adding arms to the business. You mentioned, you gave examples earlier on of people that are far along, people that are starting up, people that are starting something new. And I guess that's part of my journey as well, adding something to an existing business. For me, I had a very big, I needed a certificate, and I needed to make sure that I had done a completed course and I'd signed everything off to be able to then take those steps to trust that was something that I could create income from. Having the processes in place to start with. So it's not all about the emotion. I think an important part to recognise is because we aren't taught about money in schools, because we perhaps might not have had the best example set by parents or loved ones or whoever, it's kind of just assumed, therefore, well, if no one's telling me how to do this, I'm supposed to know. I must be assumed that I have this knowledge within me, but none of us do. None of us know how to do anything until we've tried it for the first time. So it's about understanding where you sit almost in that space of creation generally. And if you've not got any experience of doing that, it can really hold you back. Creating income streams is another. So it's not just creating a business, it's expanding existing things that you already have. So for you do a lot of one-to-one work. You've got your group programs. So the different forms of income that you bring in, that's all around creation. And having that license and that belief in yourself that you know that you do a fantastic, you create fantastic results for your clients. And that then links into charging, everything else.
Yeah, and I think the creation piece is so much around sort of self-awareness, trust, belief, as well as standing in your strengths, isn't it? And knowing that you're not going to create like everything. It's like in my head, I want to create everything all at the same time, please, because I'm already in that space and it's my idea and I'd like it all. It's to trust in the process, trust in the timing, all the things that I talk about generally. They're really important in navigating how you navigate your relationship and how you feel about money. So let the listeners know a little bit about your story, about how you got to doing what you're doing now, and kind of a little snippet of the kind of things that's in your book, that people can go away and read, which we will put the link to Tanya's book below as well, so people can find out a little bit more about her story. But just give people a flavour today that are listening in.
So my original career path, and I still do a lot of this now, so it's still very much current, but I trained originally as an accountant some 27 years ago. And it was something that I fell into. It was something that I knew I didn't want to go to university because I had a fear of debt and I had a fear of moving away from home. So I took the first job that appeared on the careers notice board at school when I was in the sixth form, which was an accountancy apprenticeship. So it meant that I could learn and earn, and that was really important to me. But over the years, as I grew up and I left home, I ended up in a controlling and abusive relationship, particularly from a financial point of view. So I very much felt my wings had been clipped. I ended up in a lot of debt, to the point where I couldn't afford to leave that relationship. So even after we'd separated, we still had to share the house together. And by that time, I had a 4-year-old. So that was really, really hard. But at the same time, it was having that 4-year-old that made me realise, it gave me the strength to take the steps I needed to leave that environment and also to turn my financial situation around. So being an accountant, I felt, and it wasn't just a feeling, it was a definite, I couldn't declare bankruptcy to get out of the financial situation I'd found myself in, because it would have meant I would have lost my license to practice. I wouldn't have been able to be an accountant anymore. So I had to find a practical way out of it. But at the same time, I didn't want that example of a relationship to be something my 4-year-old grew up to emulate and thought that was normal. I had to find another way. So the process that I created is what I write about in my book. It's the 5-step math system. And the biggest element of that system, the M in maths, is around mindset. So it was understanding individual memories and experiences that I could pinpoint to realise why I was holding myself back when it came to money. And it's the little things that you catch yourself saying, whether you say them out loud or whether you just say them in your head. We weren't allowed to talk about money when I was a child at home. And I remember once asking my dad, how much did he earn? And he threatened me with a thick ear, very northern, give you a thick ear. But if you think about as a child, maybe being 7 or 8 years of age, you ask about money and you're threatened with violence. That's a really powerful lesson that you carry then with you. And then as I got older, I asked in my first job, I asked somebody what their salary was, just genuinely interested. And I was told it was a sackable offence to talk about money. So it's a taboo subject. We don't have open relationships as children, but then as we grow up as well, we don't, it's not the sort of thing you sit down over a coffee with a friend and, how much have you invoiced this month? What's your salary this month? We just don't talk about it. It makes us incredibly uncomfortable. So I had a huge number of unhelpful money beliefs. And a big one, as I mentioned earlier, was that I didn't deserve to have money. And that just stemmed from my mum had given me some pocket money to take to see a friend because I was away from home for a few hours. And she gave it me in case of emergency. And to me, that emergency was spending it in the corner shop and buying a bouncy ball. But she told me that the 6p change I gave her back, she told me that was all the money she had left for that week. And the guilt I then felt I'd left my mum without money for the week, I carried with me for over 30 years. And that's where my deserving issue came from. But once I was able to identify the memory, we can rationally, as adults, understand that belief wasn't my belief. It was something my mum was trying to use to teach me. Maybe a bouncy ball wasn't the best thing to spend that money on, but that wasn't the lesson I took from what she said, because we all interpret things and feel things differently. So with the best will in the world, I think it's really important to recognise how we talk around money around our children for the same reasons, because we just don't know how they're going to receive that. So the book works through the 5 steps. So accountability is another step, making sure that we have the finances timetabled so that we make things as easy for ourselves as possible, understanding the basics that we need to do, and then the different solutions around how to pay yourself in your business, or how to make sure you're saving for the taxman so that you never have any surprises. So there's so many different things, because we're not taught this sort of stuff. So it's a mix of the mindset and the practical. Thank you for asking about that.
It's a really, really great book. Like I say, it'll be in the notes below. Let's talk, just as we wrap up, a little bit about fear in the book and getting yourself out into the world and how that showed up for you. Because it's bringing a book out in the world, just like a podcast. You're going to have judgment, you're going to have experiences, you're going to have opportunities where you're really showcased, you're going to have opportunities where people are going to have able to share their opinion, much more. You go into a different space when you put something into the public arena like that. So what were the fears, if any, that came up when you were like getting your book, because it's got your personal story in, out into the world, which was a couple of years ago now, and how have you kind of like navigated the next step in helping people in their management with money and fears?
That's a really interesting question. There was a massive amount of fear for me, as you picked up on the personal story. So the second chapter in the book was explaining a little bit about what I've just said about my background and how I got to where I am, and a lot more. And there's information in there that I haven't told a soul. I've never told anybody else before the book was released. And when the book came out, the launch went really well. It was an Amazon bestseller in 8 categories. And it made me freeze to the point where I found it incredibly difficult to show up online. I've had a couple of years until very, very recently where I've hardly posted, I've hardly shared anything about my business. And I was able to tell myself that was part of what I needed to do, because I wanted to shift from the accountancy focus to being able to be the financial wing woman. But I find being the financial wing woman just as scary as I imagine my clients feeling talking to me at the time, because I share about my background. I share all of the things that I've done wrong. You know, an accountant can't admit that they've been bad with money. They can't admit that they've been in debt. And I didn't know what to do about it. You know, I've read all the books. I've got the qualifications. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. But it's helped me to sort of realise that it doesn't matter where your starting point is. It doesn't matter how you've got to where you are. There's no element of blame that needs to feature in those decisions. I found it hard to launch the book, but I had a team behind me that convinced me it was the right thing to do. And now I'm glad I did. But immediately afterwards, it had a massive, because I also stood on the stage as well. I did the talk with Danny Wallace, as you did. You did Be Inspired, didn't you, the year before? Mm-hmm. So it all came all at once for me. And I thought it felt unsafe to me to be that visible. So it's taken me quite a while too. There's been a lot of behind the scenes things that I've been doing in the business and getting staff onboarded and automation systems. So it was needed. And, you know, I've not just been sat staring out the window for 2 years. I've been very busy. But, it was that fear of being seen, fear of success as well, almost. It went really well, and that was quite scary. But I'm ready to add that. You know, it's almost like you need to go through something to be able to help other people. So it just feels like another string to my bow now, and a complete understanding and empathy for other people having that same fear.
And I think that's part of your brilliance, that you are, you know, you've gone on a journey, like in your words, you know, I'm an accountant and I shouldn't have had this particular journey with money, I had all the qualifications and I find myself in this space. There will be lots of people that resonate with that. I know a lot of people come and listen to the podcast or work with me because I'm a global high performance coach who will show you the other side of reality of life in high performance. I'm not like nailing it in every area of my life all the time, because that's not reality. And so much of what I've built a brand on is being able to show that. And that's why I like bringing people like yourself onto the podcast, to show everybody's human. Let's just get awareness. Let's get acceptance. Let's get self-love. Let's work out what energizes us. Let's get the support around, work through the fears that are holding us back, and how we move forward. So as we round up, let people know a little bit about how they can work with you and experience your wisdom.
So at the moment, I work with clients one-to-one with coaching packages. And I've got spaces at the moment for 3 new clients up until the end of June, which ought to start by the end of June, which is exciting. I'm also working on some group programs of my own, that's very, very exciting to be in a place to feel ready to put that out there. And where some like my clients might fear dealing with the finances, I have a fear of the tech side of things. So trying to navigate all of that sort of stuff is I wouldn't say fun, but it's interesting. It's all learning. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or email me directly at tanya@financialwingwoman.com. I'd love to hear from anybody that was interested in learning a little bit more about the work that I do. Thank you.
So all of the details that Tanya said about how you get hold of her and her book and everything will be in the show notes. I definitely recommend going and having a look and booking a call. Tanya's super open, non-judgmental and supportive, and she's heard it all. So I think that there's going to be any element of anything around judgment, I think, is probably one of the biggest ones when people financial status.
So zero judgment, completely.
Zero judgment. As we wrap up, I will ask you the question that I ask every guest, which is, what is a book that has made an impact in your life, apart from obviously writing your own has had an impact? What's a book that you've read that's had an impact for you to either understand yourself or, navigate fear or build your resilience that's impacted on your personal growth?
So I'm glad I've listened to some of the other podcast episodes to know that this was coming. So that was very good homework on my part, because I find that really difficult. But probably the most recent book that I've read that I couldn't put down and I learned a lot from was Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate. I'm recently diagnosed with ADHD in October last year. So navigating that has been tricky. It's been something else that's been going on sort of in the last couple of years. So it's helped me to understand a lot more about where that comes from and how that manifests, and what I can do to help myself and just generally raise awareness. So some of my clients have got ADHD. It really helps from a sympathetic and empathetic point of view to just understand that we've all got stuff going on. We've all got hurdles in our own journey. So to have an understanding that might be impacting other people is really important. So that I couldn't recommend that book enough. It's lots of knowledge in there and lots of practical, this is how you can help yourself, which I'm a big fan of. But I loved that book. And the cover really got me. It was like a big paint powder graphic on the front. So it was actually the shiny graphic that caught my attention to start with.
Quite visual.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a really interesting book. We won't talk about shiny. Shiny's a whole different episode, isn't it? Especially when it comes to money. That could definitely be a follow-on episode that we could talk about. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I've loved speaking with you about this taboo topic in so many guises, but an essential topic that we really do need to talk more and more about. So thank you so, so much. and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I loved it. Always love talking to you.
You are welcome. Thank you so much, listeners. Let me know what you think of this episode. And like I say, I will bring Tanya back in the future, and we will talk about another multi-layer of relationships with ourselves and relationship with money too. So take care, and I will speak to you next time. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling energised, fearless and inspired to take action today to stand in your greatness. I share even more tools and resources on my I Dare to Leap email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the I Dare to Leap products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of becoming fearless energy. Sign up now at www.idaretoleap.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes below.